Happy Boxing Day, the day after Christmas. Happy Christmas to all who celebrated. We are back. It's been a while for me. I missed last week's show. Guys, tell me, I am Travis Gailey, by the way. The show is Get Your Horns Up, brought to you by Elite Sports Memorabilia, and I'm joined, as always, by co-host Aaron Little from Orange Bloods and Nash from Texas, who has ditched the Santa hat but still loves Christmas. How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right. I just, I would have popped out with the Santa hat a little bit longer, but, I didn't want those little. I know sometimes the angry elves can come out. They like to say, once Thanksgiving's over, move on. Once Christmas is over, move on. Well, you can be angry, but my lights are on. My lights are still on as we speak. So, but I love that name. All your recruits belong to us, because that is Steve Sarkisian definitely agrees with that.
We will get to a little recruiting coming up here shortly. But I wanted to ask both you guys, what's the best Christmas gift you ever got as a kid? I don't care what you got now. You're an adult, it probably clothes that, at best you move on. But as a kid, what was it that you got that you still think about that was the best ever?
I think I have to go with one of my dogs that I got as a kid. We got one on Christmas Day one year. It's just a little pug. He was very small at the time, obviously, and they just threw him on the bed, when they came in to wake me up. It was
Which scared the hell out of you and the dog.
What?
Probably scared the hell out of you and the dog.
No, I was fired up because I never sleep like the night before, or at least I didn't back then. I sleep pretty well now, but I think that would have to be the.
Here's my only question: what sports reference did you name the dog?
Yeah, good question.
Black Pug, Stephen Curry Little. So
so that was a Steph Curry. Okay. Yeah. I met Steph. I met Steph Curry.
Pug. Yeah, Nash knows him. Nash met him at the dog event. I wish I would have gone now that I knew you were there.
How about you, Nash? What did you get?
Honestly, I was like, I saw that question on Twitter, and I was like, man, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that I don't really remember a particular gift that I got. There's two things though, if I had to remember, but there's one I remember getting my dad. He got me the the OG Xbox when it was first out. He got me a refurbished one or whatever, but it's still chugging along right now, so
nice.
It works just fine. But there's that one. But outside of that, it's the same thing, Aaron. It's the dog. I didn't get the dog at Christmas though. It was a deal where my dog had passed away, and I just I was every single chance I could get to ask for a dog, I was like, dog, 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 dog. And the stars didn't line at Christmas, but I got her as an Easter present, but it was technically a late Christmas present. But so, and then that was probably one of that dog was my second mom. So.
Very cool. Yeah. I never got a dog as a Christmas gift. My sister did, and she was the family dog, of course, and we loved her. That same year, though, was also the year that she got the dog. I got a 10-speed bicycle, road bike, and that, for whatever reason, that to me was just the pinnacle of Christmas. It was freedom. Right? I mean, you're a kid, you're stuck to your block. All of a sudden, 10 or 11, you get that bike. I drove all over Athens on that bicycle. I mean, it was like getting a car later. You know what I mean? It was just awesome. I mean, so that was a very good Christmas that year.
Here's the deal. We kind of know what you mean, but at the same time we don't, because I guarantee Aaron was probably a little bit like me, where most kids are growing up with a bicycle, right? You got the training wheels by then. So
I had early on. I had a bike when I was younger, but the 10-speed. The road bike, the 10-speed.
Kids nowadays,
that
man. Do they care about riding around on a bike and going out and exploring? No. And B, they can technically explore on their phone. And they Google Map. These kids are damn geoguessers now.
Yeah, I think
they'll know your street before you do.
I think the cell phone had just been invented by the time.
Yeah, no, I remember.
It certainly wasn't ubiquitous.
I remember when getting a cell phone at 13 years old for me was a massive deal, and it was hey, this is emergencies only. Flip phone, Motorola. Yeah, those days are gone.
Yep. No, I had to buy my first cell phone myself, and I was an adult when I did it. So,
It shows big boomer energy.
say
right
la
now.
vie. Different time.
Aaron's
You know what?
yeah,
No.
not
Gen
relating.
X. Get it right. Gen X.
I was
But,
just a little different.
hey,
Like,
hey guys, the Specs chat line is.
Go ahead,
You what?
Travis. I was just saying I was never really into the bike. I never really got into the bikes. I don't know why. It's just weird.
Probably because Nash is right. You had your phone. You had
Maybe.
Xbox. You had.
Well, he's not that young.
I don't know.
My
I'll
phones
move
came
on.
out in 2008.
Guys, the Specs chat line is up and running. If you've you might as well throw in there what your favorite Christmas gift as a kid was if you want, or if you've got questions. This is a great day. We don't really have that big a lineup set up, so we're happy to answer questions. Of course, if you do the super chat, that gets you to the top of the line. But Zoe was the first in the house with the horns up. Again, that is the name of the show. Get your horns up, and he did it. Benny Rogers in the house as always. Benny, good morning to you. Matt T checking in. Lewis Gaines coming in from Carthage. Thumper, good morning, and Hookem. Yeah, Hookem. We are just 6 days away now, by the way.
Yeah, yesterday was last Monday.
I can't do the math on that yet, Texas Mom. I don't know how many hours we're away, but it's 6 days. That's all I know. And we're counting them down, guys. We're getting there. I'm just scrolling through the rest of the chat. I can't say hi to everyone, but I'm always happy to have you all in here. And Jay Lee checking in with his favorite gift, said he's 36, bought the best hoverboard money can buy 2 years ago. It does 14 miles per hour, and I love riding around on that thing.
Nice.
All right.
I didn't take Jay for a hoverboard guy, but the more you know. That's pretty cool. I like the hoverboard. I've never really been on one before, but 6 days away, man. It's nuts. It has been. I've said it 100 times, but it is so weird having basically free agency before the playoffs. It just kind of breaks my brain. But being 6 games away from the day, I definitely found myself this weekend more so than in the past, just getting nervous. Just randomly, just going about my day, and then just out of nowhere being like, man, I hope Rome Odunze doesn't just completely dominate this game and be like, wham, wouldn't it be cool if Jatavian Sanders scored 3 touchdowns? Just randomly, just doing things throughout the day. It's just these are the things that start to happen as you get actually close to kickoff. It's like, oh boy, this is it's going to be a long 6 days.
And if you think that's happening, I do the same thing. And if you think that's happening to us, imagine what's going on with Sark and the rest of the coaches, right? Yeah. I mean, opening presents, and he's got he thinks, oh, wow, what if we did this play? I mean, this gift wrapping reminds me of if this kind of defense. I bet we could break it like that. That's got to just be ever present in their heads. Thank you, Nash did the hours for Texas Mama, 144 hours away from kickoff.
And that's an 8 p.m. kickoff. So I think
love it. It's I listen. I am not a night person. I hate that late kickoff. I hate it.
I'm the exact opposite.
I would be in bed so much earlier and now I'm like, damn, I got to stay up that night, and we got to get up the next morning to do the show.
I'm glad Texas is the second game because, regardless of the outcome, if Texas were to be the first game, regardless of the outcome, I wouldn't really be locked in for the Bama-Michigan game. Now this way, I'm going to be locked in for Bama-Michigan, and then it'll be a good distraction as I wait for the Texas game.
I mean, you're definitely right. Especially for me too, because I'll be splitting up the recording as fast as possible. Yeah. So I'll miss it if it happens. Any games that happen right after a Texas game, I'll miss them. But even if I wasn't doing the recording, this is one of those games where if we win it, right, it's who gives a shit what happens after? A meteor could crash outside my house, and I really I would still be inside going, we won. It's I'm just thinking back to how loud and animated I was in this house, in this very room, pacing back and forth just constantly when the Stanford Regional was happening. Yeah. And it's just I don't think I've ever gotten louder in this house than when Dylan Campbell nailed that dude from the outfield, nailed him at third base. Like I was like, yeah, like because it was also a deal where it was like also multiple times I was like, you got to like stop running on bleep Dylan Campbell, and for some reason they weren't heeding my warnings from this.
Nobody ever learned their lesson, but
no, they didn't.
I listen, you guys. It makes perfect sense that you would just once the game's done. But I'm like Kevin Houston. Yeah, boy, around 9:00, I'm ready to. We start heading towards the bedroom. Maybe watch a show or something in bed before going to sleep. But it's rare that I'm not asleep by 10:00.
See, I was literally just this morning before we come on the show. I was thinking about, man, how cool is it that the Georgia Ohio State game went into it was like at New Year's Eve when
the winning kick happened like right at midnight on New Year's Eve.
I was like, how cool is that? But now I'm sitting here thinking, man, Travis is probably just sick of his stomach.
Yeah, on the East Coast. Yeah.
No, I was awake for it. I mean, there's times I stay awake, but normally day in, day out, and that's a work day still. I mean, perhaps that was foolish of me not to take off work the next day, but that's a work day. So I'm going to be hurting the next morning. But we'll be here. We'll be here next Tuesday, breaking down the game no matter what happened. Hopefully it's a win, so we have a lot more to talk about, but we will be here breaking it down. We hope you join us. Listen, we hope you've enjoyed all of the shows that we've done throughout the season. We would appreciate it if you'd go ahead and give us a like and hit the subscribe button. It helps us out greatly. And by the way, if you're watching this on delay, leave a comment in the comments section. Let us know what your favorite Christmas gift was when you were a kid. Or if you're like Jay Lee and your favorite gift ever was as an adult, that's cool too. Whatever works for you guys. Since we last talked, a couple of things have happened, by the way, since we've been on the show. We took off, obviously, for Christmas. The first thing, Texas added edge rusher Trey Moore to the fold. He's the transfer portal guy out of UT San Antonio. This guy's a stud. He knows how to get after the quarterback. This season, 2023, he finished with 45 tackles, 17 and a half tackles for loss, 14 sacks, including a forced fumble, an interception, and 4 passes defended. I believe he was the player of the year, the conference player of the year as a result of that. Last year, in 2022, he was a freshman All-American with 59 tackles, 18 for a loss, and 8 sacks. So, look, 8 sacks his freshman year, 14 his sophomore. The dude knows how to get after the quarterback. He'll have 2 years to play at Texas, assuming he stays 2 years. He could, if he has another great year with Texas, you never know. He may go pro after that, but regardless, he will be here next year as Texas transitions to the SEC. Guys, what did you think about that pickup?
It's one of these things where I know we're in the middle of a national championship potential run, but man, is it hard not to think about the year 2025 potentially, and forget about even just 2024, because let's just paint the picture. Just have my Bob Ross moment here where, okay, you have Trey Moore has a good season, right? But he's, maybe he goes, I can do better, right? I can go higher in the NFL draft. I can have a better season. You have a Trey Moore, and what would that be, a year 5 for him? That'd be his 5th year.
Yeah, he's a redshirt sophomore this season, so he'll be a redshirt.
You'd have Trey Moore as a redshirt senior. You'd have Collins, who would be a sophomore at that point. Anthony Hill, Jr. Shout out to one of my new jerseys. A little Christmas present myself. Thank you very much. But
nice.
So Anthony Hill, you'll have him in year 3. Malik Muhammad, year 3. Derek Williams, year 3. It's just, you start going down there's a stud at every single level, and then you could have 2 potentially bookend rush, dudes that just get after the quarterback. 2025 could be a scary defense.
I agree, and even next year's defense is, obviously could be good as well. just the competition on the edge is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun thing to track in the preseason. It'll be a fun thing to track, during those scrimmages right before the season, because we know Sark is probably going to want to rotate. Sark and PK are definitely going to want to rotate those guys early in the year, especially at edge rusher, and you're always trying to keep guys fresh. The temperature's hot, but it'll be interesting to see like who emerges, or if anyone emerges as like the guys. Like, can Colin Simmons do it as a true freshman? Maybe. He definitely might. Is Trey Moore going to be able to do it right off the bat going into the SEC from UTSA? Got Barron Sorrell and Ethan Burke, who played solid this year, but like didn't put up the crazy sack numbers. Now they're going to have even more competition. So the competition at pass rusher next year on the edge is definitely going to be something exciting to talk about. But Trey Moore, he's the guy that is definitely going to be in the mix there, and he gives them a lot of depth, if nothing else. But he might be more than just depth.
The rotation alone will be interesting to watch. How they rotate these guys through. And by the way, listen, the signing day was last week, but the other interesting thing, I'm diverting a little bit here, but the other really interesting thing is 21 of the 25 signees are early enrollees. And that's not just big for their development. It's big for the team's development. Sark mentioned in his presser, and I thought this was really interesting. He talked about, how them being on hand, so many new guys being on hand, helps them in spring ball. He said there's a lot of times they can't fill full teams, during spring practice because they're of a depleted roster because the incoming freshmen aren't there yet, but the seniors are gone. He said that, so this many incoming freshmen will help in the development. Next year is going to be fun to watch. But we still got games this year. The Texas, of course, the Horns practiced last week. Orange Bloods reported it was a spirited week of practice, especially the Wednesday and Thursday practices were physical. The one note I wanted to pull out, obviously, if we're talking, anytime you get a chance to talk about Arch, we're going to do it. Arch reportedly had a great week of practices. Reported in the war room on orangebloods.com that the game is slowing down for him, which is, of course, big, right? Like, when you talk about freshmen, that's the adjustment, right? The players are faster. Things happen faster. You have to figure things out. You take long when you don't know things, when you don't have them internalized knowledge of schemes and systems, you have to think things through. It's a slower progress. And with everyone coming at you fast, that's a bad combination. So the game slowing down means he is processing information quicker, and he knows the offense better. He's getting there. If he's needed in Washington or in New Orleans or in Houston, you got to keep your fingers crossed that this reporting is accurate, that he can step up, and hopefully he's not needed. But if Arch is needed, hopefully it's not the season ender that it could have been.
Yeah. I know we always love to talk about Arch Manning, but I will always take my moment to take a shot at Tom Herman, and I'll just say Steve Sarkisian, no, that is not a normal thing to not have a full roster to be able to host a spring game. When you come onto the Texas roster and you're having to play 5 offensive linemen both ways, that's not normal. Having depth and, being able to run 2 teams against each other, that's what I've seen most of my entire life, outside of 2 years, maybe 1 year, where we're running some pitiful spring game because Tom Herman left Steve Sarkisian just absolutely just a stacked roster. So just want to take that little chance to stand on a pedestal. But I will say, pair this with what Colt McCoy said about Arch Manning. For those that didn't hear, Colt McCoy said he's like, comes in and Arch Manning's on a visit, and basically he starts fanboying over Arch Manning. He's like, oh, he's sitting there dissecting plays before, and this is his first visit to Texas, and so this is almost like what people were expecting out of a Manning to, by the end of his first year, okay, yeah, game's probably going to start slowing down to him, and he's probably going to this is what you expect.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We talked about the jump for freshmen. Like, when you have this long of a break going as a freshman, it's almost like you're a sophomore coming back for this game. People like to say that. I kind of go back and forth on that, but it definitely can be true. I'm just wondering with the offense overall, are they going to be able to keep the momentum rolling that they had against Texas Tech, against Oklahoma State after such a long break? And I've never really been a guy that worries about the rust versus the rest, and both teams are obviously dealing with the exact same amount of rest here. But it's like the Texas offense was really rolling, but it was Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. But at the same time, Washington defense isn't that scary either. I don't think I'm actually that worried about the rust, just because they're getting everyone healthy and like there's so much time to game plan. And I still think Quinn is a good like point and shoot quarterback. Like when you've got to play designed a certain way and the guys are going to be open, I don't think that's going to be a factor. But that's always something to think about. But yeah, I mean, I think Arch, surely he's improving right now. I'd be concerned if he wasn't, but yeah, hopefully we don't see him until next year, just because it'd be an incredible story. But yeah, I just want to see Quinn come out and dominate and stay hot, because he was, I mean, the last time we saw this guy, he was on fire.
Yeah, you mentioned the last 3 games. I mean, that was one of my big questions. I'm just not sure if we'll be able to get to it because of how. I mean, we've had some good questions that have, made us kind of go on and have some good dialogue here. But man, it is just Texas was we're like, it's hard to believe this, right? But over the last 3 games, Texas is a 29.3 point differential, and that includes leaving points on the board versus Iowa State. And we're number 1, and it's by a decent amount. And Washington is like down pretty, like I want to say like in the 60s and 50s. It's like a 3 or 4 point differential over the last 3 games. So it's 2 completely different teams over the last 3 weeks. It's just I have a graphic that I can get for you later in the show or even later in the week. But at the same time, as much as I would love to sit there and go, look at how Washington's done over the last 3 weeks, and look how Texas has done over the last 3 weeks. The one thing that you kind of do have to look at Washington with a little bit of context, and this has come from my mouth. I'd love to be as eternally optimistic as possible, but it's one of those deals where they were playing a torrential downpour, and Oregon versus Oregon State. And then that's also a little bit of a rivalry game. And then immediately after that, Washington State. I mean, I can't sit here and say the OU game, like the losing OU 4 points, isn't that big of a deal because it was a rivalry game, and then turn around and say, "Ha, Washington, you barely beat Washington State." It's a rivalry game, That kind of goes with the par for the course.
Absolutely. Yeah, hold on. Just to answer the Specs chat line. First, J. Lee Gage Sheets is right. In Catch's column, 10 Thoughts for the Weekend, he gave out Christmas gifts, and his gift to me was promotion for Leeds, meaning Leeds United, the soccer club, who incidentally are playing right now. So if I get distracted, you know why. And they're in the 2nd division of the English Football League, the Championship division. His gift is that he would like to see Leeds promoted to the Premier League, which is the one, most Americans are very familiar with. So that's what he's talking about. That's that. Hey, one more news nugget that we had since we've last talked. Malik Murphy has committed officially to Duke. He's going to Duke. He will be playing for the Blue Devils, playing for Manny Diaz, the new head coach, and their offensive coordinator, whose name I forget, but is a Rhett Lashley. He learned under Rhett Lashley they're going to run the same offense basically as they run at SMU. So that's where Malik Murphy is going. I think it's a pretty good landing spot for him. It's not a big name school per se, football wise.
It depends on, I was about to say in football, yeah.
Yeah, for football wise.
Look, if you're Malik Murphy, if I'm Malik's mom or dad, man, I gotta be pumped, right? Like your kid has gone to University of Texas and Duke, like that. Like those are. I mean, that's a little bit of a there might be some dudes that have gone to Cornell and a bunch of all these other like graduate school, like gone to some of these big schools. But hey, there's not a lot of people in the world that can say they went to schools that have the prestige of Texas and Duke.
It ain't bad.
No, it's not. I feel like he's going to have a job for life, no matter what.
And football wise, listen, I've talked about relentlessly. The guy doesn't have a lot of starts under his belt in either high school or college. He needs game time. This is a good landing spot. They've got
100%.
a redshirt freshman that had to step up and play in the bowl game because their starting quarterback transferred to Notre Dame. Riley Leonard, who's the new Notre Dame quarterback. This is a good landing spot. This is their handpicked guy, new coaching staff. They want Malik in. He's going to be given it'll be a competition. It always is, but he's the presumed starter, and he's going to be given every shot to win it.
Yeah,
my Christmas gift to him would be to stay healthy.
Yeah, no, I mean, when it came across the timeline and I saw Malik Murphy to Duke, I was just thinking, like, that seems about right, because he doesn't have the experience and the quality play like on tape for him to just, because he had to go somewhere where he was basically going to be the guaranteed starter. So I was like, he just doesn't have enough on tape to be like a guaranteed guy, just like a Georgia or an Ole Miss or just like a legit CFP contender. But at the same time, he has too much potential and he could potentially be an NFL guy to end up at like a Baylor or a Rice. So I wasn't going to be good with that either. I was like, he's got to end up somewhere right in the middle of that spectrum of not Baylor or Rice, but
right.
He can't be a guaranteed starter on a playoff team yet. So I think Duke was just like kind of the perfect middle ground there. So I'm excited to see him.
And no offense to Hudson Card, but like I didn't want another Hudson Card situation where you got him going to a school like Purdue or I know Mike Elko is going out the door, but it's not necessarily the same situation, right? Duke's in a little bit, they seem a little bit more set up for success in the future. And I mean, this honestly, like, this feels like it feels like a win-win for both sides, right? Like you were saying right there, and like that's what I want to touch on with the Duke. For them, like the potential, right? You potentially have a dude that, I mean, we all know like Malik's ceiling. Yeah. If you just get rid of those stupid decisions that he made in those games versus Kansas State and BYU, just the little tiny things, right, that people are going to probably focus on way too much. You remember those things? The dude probably had a hell of a day, and as I was probably predicting, I thought that was going to happen. I think that you might have some people that would have come back and said maybe Quinn Ewers doesn't need to return to play, had he not made those dumb mistakes. But yeah, this just feels like a win-win for both sides.
Absolutely. I think it's a great landing spot. I'm happy for him, and those stupid mistakes will lessen with experience, which is what he's going to be able to get.
He needs it.
But if you haven't, and I know you have, Nash, but if you haven't, listen, Texas would not be in the playoffs without Malik Murphy, period. End of story. Yes, he made some mistakes, but that's what freshman quarterbacks do. He still guided Texas to wins over K-State, and you just said it, and I'm forgetting
BYU.
it already. BYU, thank you. He still guided Texas to wins in K-State and BYU. They needed those wins. And K-State is no slumpy school, by the way. They're a good team. They're, borderline top 25 team. That was a good win, a big win, one that I actually predicted again. That's the only time I've predicted against Texas all season long. I was worried about that K-State game. I still hit the line, right? The over under. The whatever. I got the against the spread. I was correct, but I was worried about that game.
Texas was definitely favored in that game.
Yeah, but it was like they were favored by like 6 or 7, and they won by 3, I think.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I got you. Wait,
because I will say, like, this reminds me of I remember because Texas baseball, we were having the Fall World Series right around the same time, that same weekend. And I remember I was just hanging out with the Occupy Left Field, Mark Pena, the guy that runs Occupy Left Field, and we're hanging out in left field. And he was talking about how he had a buddy that convinced him to every week he was going to go put put a bet for Texas to win. And every week it's looking like, just smooth sailing. And then out of nowhere, it's like, okay, hang on for the ride, right? Houston.
Yeah.
And I just remember I was sitting there thinking in the stands versus Kansas State. I'm like, man, Mark's not going to have a bumpy ride today. And then promptly,
it started out great.
it started that way, and then promptly I was like, Mark's probably losing his mind right now.
Yeah, it started out great, but you know what? Malik still pulled it out. He is a Longhorn. I don't care if he's going to Duke. He's a Longhorn, and because he's no longer here, by the way, that's your advantage. You can still remember him as a Longhorn. The jerseys are on sale at Elite Sports Memorabilia. Scan the QR code. Go check it out. It's worth it. By the way, if you don't want a Malik Murphy jersey, that's fine. You can. There's still plenty of other players available, including, like Nash pointed out, his new signing, his new jersey to the collection, Anthony Hill Jr., Kelvin Banks, Xavier
Adonai
Worthy, Adonai Mitchell. The list goes on and on. Jonathan Brooks, future NFL running back. The list goes on and on and on. And there's a lot of great players who have signed with ESM. They are members of the ESM family. You can go check it out. Again, Malik Murphy jerseys are on sale. You can get them cheap, and always remember him as the horn he is. And remember, if Texas wins it all, he had a big role in that. He'll get a ring. So just saying, you need to go check that out. One final thing I want to get to. On the other side of the break, there was the Joe Moore Award given to the Washington Huskies offensive line. I want to talk about that in a minute. But first, Nash, did you try eggnog yet?
I have not. Got a little live tasting.
Let's do it. Let's do it. What you got?
Drum roll. The sound effect in here.
That face is not a happy face.
It's a different experience. It's a weird experience, Aaron. It's not bad, right? But imagine not the taste, but the consistency of the. It's what?
Creamy.
Yeah, it's like drinking cough syrup, man. I mean, like, if I'm drinking that, I want to have a double styrofoam cup and some Sprite in there.
No, come on. Eggnog is delicious, no matter what you engage say. Eggnog, it actually does taste good, but it is thick. It's a thick viscosity, if you will.
I think taste is subjective.
It is, but you know what? The adult version is
I'm glad I tried it. Yeah,
the adult version is even better. Of course,
I could see how if you put alcohol in there that. I could see it taking it, but still, it's just, I mean, I cannot tell you how much that felt like I was just drinking cough syrup.
Yeah, man, we mix it with bourbon.
And I don't like cough syrup.
Delicious. It's worthy. Eggnog is a delicious holiday treat. Of course, you can make it yourself, or you can just go buy it. And where would you go to buy adult eggnog? Specs. They've got it. They've got its seasonal product, of course, but they're there. Specs is a Texas born and bred company, so there's a location near you. I promise you it's not far, unless, of course, you're one of the guys who don't live in the state, and there's plenty of you here. That's fine, too. Go check out Specs online or the Specs app. They can even have it delivered. It's that simple.
You're needing Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Cheers to savings. Cheers to eggnog. By the way, I got to address this. Quentin Dixon chiming in on the Malik Murphy saying you don't just get to ignore interceptions. That's true, Quentin. We don't. But by the same token, you don't just get to ignore wins. And Malik Murphy won those. There's only two people that get a win-loss total next to their name in the record books. It's the quarterback and the head coach. Malik Murphy is 2-0 in his collegiate
and then
career.
You also don't get to ignore the throws that Quentin Ewers was like. I mean, y'all can't sit there and say I've not been defending Quentin Ewers all year long, right? I've been coming up here. I've been coming up to bat. Like Peyton Powell last year for Quinn Ewers.
Yep.
So I've been stepping up to the plate. But that being said, Quinn Ewers has not had the success that Malik Murphy had versus BYU and Kansas State throwing the deep ball. That's just, you can't, like, he came out here, it was instantaneous. Boom. and he was making some very nice throws. So yeah, you can't ignore the interceptions, but you can't ignore the great throws, and that was my point earlier.
Yeah, and
Also,
again,
wins should be a team stat. Wins are not a quarterback stat. I know some people
It is.
are that way, but I don't. I'm not a wins are not a quarterback stat to me. I'd never like that.
I mean, I agree with you right there because I mean, like, was that Malik Murphy win or was that T'Vondre Sweat winning?
It's a
I
team
mean,
win,
look,
just like it always is. It's not. It's not a
you
quarterback
may not
stat.
like it, and I understand that, but that doesn't change that that's what happens. People still judge quarterbacks by wins and losses, and they judge.
No, but I'm trying to move us forward. I'm trying to have people maybe we can change that one show at a time. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe this could be the 60s. They had the race to the moon. This could be our final stand.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think the quarterback's got a lot to do with it. It's still the most important position.
Well,
I
they
don't
have a
mind
lot to do
having
with it. I'm just saying,
losses.
I don't think it should be a stat. I don't know.
And again, those interceptions go away with experience. He learns, right? Quinn Ewers learned. His freshman year was really not.
Sometimes
good.
they do.
But yeah, well, sometimes they do.
Yeah.
They should.
Not
That's
guaranteed.
the point. Is it's not guaranteed, but it should, and I think it will with Malik. He'll learn. He'll get there. That's what's needed. All right. Hey, listen. I mentioned the final news and note that I wanted to talk about. Washington, the Huskies, awarded the Joe Moore Award as the best offensive line in college football. This is the team we're going to play, and Texas is facing in the Sugar Bowl, right? This is the team. They do not give up sacks. I think they're tied for third in the country with the least sacks given up in for the season. They're experienced. They're not big, but they work together well as a unit, which is what you want to see out of an offensive line. So, but after that award came out, I was listening to Chris Peterson, the former Washington coach, who's now a Fox analyst. He was on a show up in Seattle, the radio show. Brock Heward, not Brock, whichever Heward does the TV stuff in Seattle, his radio show. He was talking to Peterson, and Peterson talked about that's what he's going to be watching in the Sugar Bowl. From a coach's point of view, the matchups he wants to see is the offensive line, Washington's offensive line, against Texas's defensive line. And it triggered two thoughts in my head. One, which I find to be ridiculous. He talked about, and I'll be writing about this a little bit in my column coming out on Orange Bloods tomorrow. He talked about how Washington wants to run the ball, but they don't really care. And if the run game isn't there, really the passing game is what's critical. So he's focused on the pass protection. First off, I find that ridiculous. When you look at Washington, when they've struggled this year, it's because they haven't been able to run the ball. You go back and look at Arizona State. They literally averaged 1 yard per carry against Arizona State. They struggled to run the ball against Washington. They've struggled against Oregon State. Now, yes, it's a rivalry game, as Nash pointed out. Oregon State game was a rain game, which ideally you would think would help.
Yeah, it lends itself to being a running game.
Yeah, but they didn't do great. At best, they're a 4 yards per carry team. Even in Oregon, in the Pac-12 championship game, when Dylan Johnson, their running back, ran for 150 yards, he did it on like 28 carries, which ended up being like 4.2 per carry. They want to run the ball, I promise you, because when they get one-dimensional, they've struggled. Texas can obviously make them one-dimensional in the run game. But the other thought I had that triggered is that as awesome as T'Vondre Sweat is, and he is incredible, and he can give teams fits, I think this could set itself up well to be a Byron Murphy game. Because I mentioned Washington's not big. Their center's like 6'2", 285.
I got something on that. I've been trying my hardest not to
let me get
laugh,
this out.
yes.
We'll get to you. You're excited.
I'm just giving you the correct numbers. 6'2", 275 pounds. But continue.
There you go. I appreciate it. 6'2", 275. I was 10 pounds off. He's not big.
You were not.
He requires double teams, and I think I think they're really going to be focused on T'Vondre Sweat. Byron Murphy is a quick dude. He is strong, fast and quick. I think Byron Murphy, I don't know that Texas is going to get a lot of sacks in this game. I just don't. But Byron Murphy can disrupt plays up the middle. And anytime you're disrupting a game, an offense up the middle, you're winning, period. End of story. So this can be, I think this is a big Byron Murphy game. What do you guys think? Have you looked into this Washington offensive line? Let me hear it. What do you guys think?
I think that the Joe Moore Award needs to be sent to. I know it's a pretty large award, weighs quite amount of weight, but that needs to be sent to Kalen DeBoer's house because that's who's really behind the magic that's gone on with the low sack numbers. What I've been trying, like, because I've been like, okay, look, is this a deal where it's like for those that don't remember, Dan Neal, guard for University of Texas, 6'2", 265, 275 pounds, right in that same range. 2 Super Bowls, All-American in college, not kind of good accolades. He was a pretty good guard, so maybe it's a situation like that. But I keep watching this dude, and every single time I watch him, it's like he's like a lost puppy dog running around out there. It's like he's trying his best, but he reminds me of those AFL blockers, Arena Football League. Like they got them low weight because they want them running around. They want them to be able to have blocks downfield, and you'll see that happen. Like he's able to move pretty quickly, but for an offensive line. But hey, that's what happens when you're 275 pounds. This is as much as I like Byron Murphy. I agree with what you just said about Byron Murphy. His pressure, I think him getting pressure on Michael Penix is going to affect the game, and particularly affect Penix. But I don't think they're not going to run the football up the middle. That's not what they do, and they're not going to all of a sudden start doing that when the strength of Texas is right at the middle. So I really agree. Like I think T'Vondre Sweat, while as much, again, I've been talking a lot about T'Vondre Sweat and singing his praises all year long. This is not a T'Vondre Sweat game, in my opinion. This is just because of how Washington. You go and you watch Washington. Watch how they attacked Oregon. They're going to the edge. Dylan Johnson, all of his rushes to the edge, screen pass to the edge, and then everything else is deep downfield. I mean, yeah. you take those two things away from them, and I mean, you can literally take away their ball.
Well, in Texas, I mean, they've got their edge players have been solid against the run this year, and obviously they have the linebackers to get out there. So one of my biggest things is, like, I've just been wondering how much is Washington going to try to run the ball in this game, because everyone wants to be balanced. Everyone wants to be two-dimensional. But is Washington going to look at it and say, in these games that we have struggled, it's because we tried to run the ball and then we failed? So are they just going to look at this and be like, well, the weakness of Texas is in the secondary, and the strength of Texas is the run defense? Do we even waste our time and risk trying to run the game? Because if you come out the gate and you try to run the ball and you find out the hard way that the best way to attack the Texas defense is through the air, you might just that might just give away 2 possessions, where in a game where you might not be able to waste 2 possessions. So I'm wondering if they look at it and say, look, we've had a month to prepare. The weakness of Texas is in the secondary. They're down to safety in the first half. We're just going to air it out against these guys and not even bother with the run game, because I think that might be the best way to approach this game. But it's hard to live as a one-dimensional team for 4 quarters, and Texas has guys that can get after the quarterback, even though Washington does have ways to get the ball out fast. And it's hard to, not get a holding penalty or not get an eventual sack or a tipped pass for a turnover. It's hard to go that long with just passing the ball, but that's something that's just been on my mind, because they ran the ball well against Oregon, but you guys mentioned those other games where they haven't run the ball well, and you just look at it on paper, Texas profiles as a team that will stop the Washington run game. So are they even going to bother? I'm not sure. The other thing to talk about here is tempo. Texas has struggled at time with tempo this year on defense, but they're going to be prepared for it because they know it's coming. Like, you've had this long to prepare for it. So, can that wear down T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy? Potentially. But, there's a lot of different factors here. But I've been thinking a lot about the Washington run game. And the more I think about it, I'm just like, I think they're just going to come out complete spread air raid, but I don't know. We'll see.
And you know who might affect the sack numbers more than anybody is our corners and our Jade Barron. Because, and the reason why I say that is because, like, I mean, if you go and if you watch, like, I've been watching a lot of Washington recently over the last couple of weeks, like, just literally just watching their full games, just paying attention, taking notes, and they attack the edges.
Yep.
And I'm telling you right now, like, that makes sense. That's where a lot of their quick, hey, ball, boom, pressure, quick out, right? Get it out of your hands. If you can take away that, right? If you can force Penix to hold the football, and then you allow Byron Murphy to, start getting, like, because that's the guy, right? This is our guy this year, or for this game, especially versus this. Like, it's just it's math, right? It's like Byron Murphy squats and benches this amount, and you weigh this amount, right? Like, it's just I don't know, it's math. And when you got that and you got T'Vondre Sweat, I just, if you're able to take away the edges and you force Penix to try and hold the ball and get those deep shots downfield, man, like, I mean, that you start getting pressure on Penix, that's when he starts making those bad throws.
Yeah, he does. And listen, he is prone to some interceptions. He
gets scatterbrained.
Yeah, he can be gotten, and I think you're right, Nash, about the tackling on the edges needs to be good. I think that's one area, though, where I've seen a lot of great promise from Manny Muhammad. Jade Barron is certainly willing to fight through blocks and go get some tackles. I'm not worried about Texas stopping the run game, whether they try to go through the middle or the edge. They've been able to do it all season. But, Aaron, to your point, Washington can't just completely abandon the run. Again, they don't win in the Pac-12 championship game if Dylan Johnson wasn't running the ball. They just don't. That was a huge part of their offensive game plan that they need in the Alamo Bowl. In the Sugar Bowl. They won the Alamo Bowl last year because they were able to run the ball on Texas.
But I mean, we just went through all of it, and you talked about the edge guys and the corners being able to tackle, and obviously T'Vondre Sweat and Murphy are going to eat up a bunch of blocks and free up the linebackers. Are they going to look at it just like we are and be like, yeah, it'd be great, but Travis, you just said I'm not worried about Texas stopping the run. So if you think Texas is going to stop the run, you don't think the Washington coaching staff is recognizing the same thing and saying, I'm not saying they're going to have 10 carries on the day, but
absolutely. I think they're going to recognize. I absolutely think they're going to recognize the fact that Texas can stop and does stop the run against everyone they faced. But I also think they're going to recognize what they've been able to do when they can't run the ball and realize, look, when you scrape by a 15-7 win against Arizona State on a pick six late in the game, that's how you won the game. And it's all because you couldn't run the ball. Coaches have long memories. They don't forget what works for them. And this Chris Peterson even said this in this interview, by the way. He's like, fans tend to focus on the positive. He's like, coaches know every single wart on their team. They know what they can and can't do. That's a big wart on their team when they can't run the ball. So I think they're going to have to try.
Yeah,
I don't think it'll be successful.
You just look at also I kind of agree with both y'all, right? Like I agree with what Aaron's getting at, right? When you're looking at how to attack Texas, I think that they probably are going to say, you know what, we're going to put a lot more focus on trying to get these passes downfield. It almost feels like an exercise in futility, trying to run against this Texas team. Like it feels like battering your head against a wall. Now that being said, it's a little ironic considering that versus Oregon, that was a game where they needed to run the ball more, right? Had they run the ball more, they probably win that game a little bit with a little bit better margin. It's probably a little bit more comfortable of a win for them. And I mean, I've said it multiple times. It's over the last 3 weeks. they're or not 3 weeks anymore, but over the last 3 games, they're like their run pass play is separated by 3 plays or something like that. So it is almost a dead on 50-50 split when you're talking about what they're going out and doing as an offense. And that's just compared to their season long numbers, they are overwhelming a passing team and not a rushing team. It's clear that they've said, you know what, there's some, like, I think I kind of agree with what Travis said at the same time too, with the coaches maybe recognizing, hey, we had a wart on our team versus Arizona State, and let's get this thing figured out and let's start running the ball more because we need to. It's like Steve Sarkis, you need complementary football. As much as fans will get mad at it, you need it.
Absolutely. Yeah,
It's
no,
definitely the case
absolutely.
in a perfect world. And they did run the ball well against Oregon. That's the thing where I think I like the Oregon defense.
It
It's
was just
not
the
as good
edges.
as the
It's the
Texas run
edge.
defense, but they ran the ball well against Oregon. So they
Well,
definitely
and-
have reason to be confident. I just don't know if they're going to get too overconfident against like when they dig into the matchup, which
So
obviously already have.
here's the deal with Oregon, and I wish I had this thing that where I could have you pulled up already, but I put out a Twitter graphic on a graphic on Twitter about the Pac-12. They are just, and here I'll DM it to you real quick if you can get it up in time. But the Pac-12, they are just absolutely not a running league. And part of my, like, I kind of had a theory that was like, you know, maybe Oregon looked like a good rushing defense, right? Maybe Oregon had good rushing numbers, but maybe that's because Oregon is in a league that they do not want to run the football, not at all. And I've mentioned this multiple times in the past few weeks where the Pac-12 was almost like what the Big 12 was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you were expecting Patrick Mahomes type games. Dudes just slinging the ball left and right, pass, 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 pass. And then now you look at it, the Big 12 is actually, we're the conference that we have the most rushing attempts. We have the most, the defenses. They face the most attempts rushing the football. So it's one of those deals where I think Oregon, that was almost like a Trojan horse isn't necessarily the right thing, but I think that the stat. It's one of those examples of where stats maybe aren't if you pick one particular stat, maybe that isn't a great example.
Yep. I'm not going to be able to pull this up on the screen, but everyone go check out Nash's Twitter if you want to take it. If you want to get a good look, he always has the good stats going over there. But yeah, no, it's definitely interesting because that's a big debate. It's like the Pac-12 defense is like, have we just been overrating them all year? It's definitely possible.
Well, and if you guys have a subscription to The Athletic, Bruce Feldman did a great job of talking to coaches that have faced each of the teams. And when they've talked to the Pac-12 coaches, that was something they mentioned, that they haven't faced a rush defense like what they're going to see against Texas or Michigan or even Alabama in the Pac-12. They just haven't. Like they haven't faced rushing attacks, by the way, like they're going to see with Texas and Michigan, certainly if they get that far. It's the run game in the Pac-12 isn't what it was. I mean, outside of Oregon State, Utah a little bit, and Oregon State was able to run the ball effectively on Washington, by the way, and shut down Washington's run, which is part of the reason why it was such a close game. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I do, it's cliche for a reason, right? The game is won in the trenches. And despite the fact that Washington won the Joe Moore Award as the best offensive line in the country, I still kind of like Texas's chances in the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it's just there's so many advantages and disadvantages. Like, what do you guys think is more important in this game? Do you think it's more important to be able to control the clock a little bit and keep your offense on the field, or do you think it's more important to generate explosive plays? Because in my opinion, I think generating explosive plays is more important in this game, but you can make a good argument either way, I guess, in a game like this.
No, I honestly kind of I think that this game, the explosive plays that's the dangerous thing, because those are the things that you might be able to steal a little bit of momentum at times, but like that it feels like there's not enough substance there. You know, when you're talking about playing the top 4 teams in the country, right? You're talking about the cultural playoff, right? When it gets down to the nitty gritty, you're playing the best of the best teams. That's when all these tiny little differences start to, become like a molehill might turn to a mountain, right? You might have been able to, Washington might have been able to survive a team, right? In the Pac-12 in the season by getting these, like Oregon, right? Not Oregon's not a great example because they're a pretty good team, but you just had this multiple times in the Pac-12 where Washington can put it on and they can put it on fast, but it's the times that they aren't putting it on fast. And then if you just allow Texas, right? Like just say Texas has a lead and we're just sitting there, running the ball, running the clock out, and Washington, they can't do anything about it, right? That's one of those things where then it starts to increase pressure on your offense, because then every single time that your offense comes off the field, there's even more pressure to go, oh crap. You're a basketball guy, Aaron. It's the team that it's what I'm trying to get at here. It's the team that doesn't stop shooting 3-point shots, right? The 3-point shot, the 3-point. If you hit those 3 points, great. That can pull you out of some deficits. But at the same time, if you just sit there and take 3-point shots and you keep on missing 3-pointers, that can also bury you too.
Maybe.
Yeah. I tend to agree. Listen, I know PK's answer. I know he's going to take away the deep ball as much as he can. He's going to play it safe. I tend to think, I would rather see – I think Texas has a better chance of getting them off the field quickly if they limit the underneath stuff and make Washington go deep, especially if we're talking about, somebody like Byron Murphy trying to get pressure. It helps if they're trying to go deep.
Because you could have an Oklahoma State situation happen where a bunch of 3-and-outs happen, and maybe on the other side Texas has had the ball rolling, and it's hard to stop a ball that's rolling.
Yeah, it is. Listen, we're going to do our picks on this game Friday for all of you tuning in.
That Friday show is going to be crazy.
Hey, this is the big one.
Yeah.
This is what you play for, right? You play to win the game. You play to make the playoffs.
This is what we play for. Us three.
But all of us have done really well in picking Texas. Not so great when we're picking the other bowl games, right? This is our record on the year. Last week in bowl game picks, I swear to God, I thought I was a lot worse than 5-5. But I trust Aaron's math there. I trust him to go back and do the producing on that. Still under 500 for the season. Aaron and Nash are still battling. Still tied for the season-long record. So we got a couple more games going on today. Like I said, it's Boxing Day, the day after Christmas. This is a big week for bowl games. This is when they start up for real. It's no longer, I started to say we start to get some great games. Not today, but the rest. Well, actually, I take that back.
Where are the good games coming, Travis? Tell me the really, really good games before January 1st.
You should know there's one of these is on Chase Field, okay?
Oh, I know.
I actually do like the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. I think that's a good matchup. But the really good games I'm talking about coming up this week, Aaron, are, for instance, the Orange Bowl is coming up this week. The Alamo Bowl is coming up.
The Orange Bowl, is that Georgia, Florida State, and the nobody wants to be there bowl with no Tate Rodemaker?
That's the one. That's the one. The Alamo Bowl is coming up. The Holiday Bowl with Louisville, USC. I think that's a great bowl game.
No Caleb Williams against that Louisville offense. Fire me up,
Texas
baby.
Bowl is coming up this week. Oklahoma State versus Texas A&M. That's an interesting one. Although that's a 9:00 Eastern kick, which means I won't be awake for it. I'm looking forward, though. You know what? The Alamo Bowl is going to be very interesting. Arizona versus Oklahoma. That's
I do want to watch Oklahoma. Oklahoma might be the
Yeah.
one team you've listed that it's like I want to watch just because I want to see Jackson Arnold.
and Arizona's a good team. So this
Yeah.
is Jackson Arnold making his it's not his first start, but Jackson Arnold officially taking over the OU Sooners. It's going to be interesting to watch him. The Alamo Bowl should be a good one, but that's not what we're picking today. Today we're picking the Quick Lane Bowl, First Responder Bowl, and Guaranteed Rate Bowl. So not quite the same as those other games. Still, they're playing. I'm watching. We're picking. Let's start it off. The Quick Lane Bowl, Bowling Green versus Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. Yeah, the Gophers are 3-point favorites, and the over-under is 39.5. So give me Minnesota. I'll take Minnesota.
Can we just take a second to appreciate the Quick Lane Bowl getting Bowling Green? Just absolute, great branding, great job right there of picking the teams. Now that being said, I'm picking Bowling Green. Now, how could you not?
All right.
Yeah, I'm also going Bowling Green here plus the 3. I mean, it's every kid's dream, right? You work your whole life so you can play in Detroit at the Quick and Lane Bowl at 2:00 on a Monday. This is where the stars come out to play. So give me Bowling Green.
Yeah, I can't pick a Bowling Green team that's colors are orange and brown. I mean, how do you not go green if you're Bowling Green? Just saying. By the way, very pretty part of the country. That little area of Kentucky is very pretty. All right. First Responder Bowl. This is the Texas Bowl, basically. Texas State versus Rice. All in-state teams. Texas State, G.J. Kinney, former Longhorn, has got his, I forget what Texas State's nicknames are.
The Bobcats.
Bobcats, thank you. Bobcats, 3.5-point favorites. Total, 59.5. This is a Rice team without their starting quarterback, who is retired from football, former 5-star quarterback.
JT Daniels.
JT Daniels. He's just given it up. He's going into coaching. Good for you, JT. It wasn't going to work out in the NFL anyway, even if you did give it a shot. So good for you. He's probably got like 4 degrees now, so it's a nice transition into coaching.
He's been to a lot of classes. That's true.
Yeah, like his favorite toy as a kid was a ball in a cup. I mean, that's the technology that was around when he started. He's just old, is what I'm saying. So good for him for retiring from college football. Give me J.G. Kinney and the Bobcats. I'll take Texas State to lay the 3.5 points.
I'm also laying 3.5 points with Texas State. This game is being played in Dallas at Gerald Ford Stadium. So get a bowl game in Dallas, not at Jerry World, not at the Cotton Bowl, like the third tier. This is just sad stuff.
The SMU Stadium's pretty nice, and it's easy to get to. So there's that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, have you been there? It's a nice.
Well, I mean,
stadium.
I think what Aaron is kind of getting at is when you have summer travel ball teams in baseball playing at nicer baseball stadiums, then it's just like this is a legit bowl game. There's actual brand money going behind this. I agree with you, Aaron. This is I'm sorry, but SMU if SMU Stadium is the best that you can do, it's sad, but I'm taking Texas State.
All right,
there you go.
You guys can poop on that stadium all you want. I like it. I think, and it's a nice venue for this size.
What's going on at Jerry World today? Nothing.
They can't fill Jerry World.
Well,
that's not the point.
I bet they don't fill the stadium either.
No, they won't fill this stadium.
You know what they could do? They could fill that Frisco Stadium, the Star.
Yeah,
they could. Yeah, they could. That may be a little too small though. I think that capacity is what, like 5,000-6,000.
An intimate venue.
Yeah, this is a good size stadium for this bowl game. The Guaranteed Rate Bowl is in Arizona, right?
Chase Field, baby, home of the National League champion Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, this is a venue to be excited about playing in. Chase Field was rocking all of October. Some great memories.
Up until it wasn't.
Also,
go Rangers.
That's good.
Your World Series champion, Texas Rangers. That's all I'm saying. All right, Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Kansas taking on UNLV. Now, Kansas doesn't have their offensive coordinator for this game, Koldenicki, who moved on to Penn State. I really like him as a coach, by the way, as an offensive coordinator. I think he calls a great game. Still, they are 12.5-point favorites over UNLV and Brennan Marion's go-go offense. The over-under 67.5. I would take the over in that total. But the 12.5-point favorites is too much for me. Give me the Running Rebs and UNLV.
I'll roll with Jason Bean here. I feel like Jason Bean's the type of guy to just kind of show out in the bowl game against a bad defense with, I just feel like he's going to go crazy. So I will take Kansas. Big 12, Big 12 pride, anyone? Rooting for Kansas and Chase Field, anyone?
I hope they do win. No.
I'm team SEC. SEC. I'm that team. Okay, I've come around. Now, that being said, I will say I'm picking UNLV. And actually for the same reason that you said about Bean. This is a Brennan Marion game. This is a guy that we bought. Everybody knows he wants to be moving up in the coaching ranks. This is a game for him to put out a statement and say, hey, UNLV beat a Kansas team that you went out there and beat Oklahoma, right? A Kansas team that was pretty good. And, yeah, I think that this could be a Brennan Marion statement game for his resume.
I like it. All right, guys, we've run long. Quick correction. Thank you, Richardson. Bowling Green, the university is in Ohio. The city of Bowling Green is in Kentucky. Mea culpa, my bad. Thank you, Richardson, for the correction. Richard Dixon for the correction, not Richardson. Which also has a nice high school stadium, by the way, Richardson. Anyway, guys, that's it. We're going to be right back here tomorrow, breaking down more of the Texas-Washington game. Again, we're going to do our little producing on air here. We're going to do our game pick for the Sugar Bowl. We're breaking it down completely on Friday. Make sure you tune in for that. And this is could be potentially your last chance to win a free autographed jersey from Compliments of Elite Sports Memorabilia. We'll see how the game goes. That's all Friday. We'll tell you how to win that. Thursday, I think, is when we're going to do our bowl picks for the rest of the big bowl games throughout the weekend. So we'll do
bowl games. There's just so many big bowl games.
Well, that includes, by the way, the Rose Bowl with Washington versus Michigan. I don't know. Maybe we'll throw that into Friday's show. Just a playoff edition of picks. I think we'll do that. We'll throw the Rose Bowl into the Friday show, do that pick, and the Sugar Bowl. And then Thursday we'll do the others.
Will we be going live on not live, but we'll be doing. Well, yeah, we'll be live in the morning on January 1st.
No, there is no show on game day on January 1st. We're letting people recover from the previous night, get ready for the game. We got to go, guys. Listen, come right back here tomorrow. We'll have more great Longhorn versus Washington talk for Nash, who loves talking them horns, and Orange Blood's own Aaron Little. I am Travis Gailey. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Coming up next is Onwar's Old Fashioned Sports Show.